What's going on, guys? Welcome to the updated build for the Dreadknight Stamina Dragonknight Heavy Armor setup. This is going to be for the Murkmire patch, obviously. So as you see now already, we are running something slightly different. It's the same exact gear setup, maybe one other thing's different, but let's just get right into it. Actually, before we get into the bar setup, we'll just stick with very bare bones of the build. So we're still a red guard, still rocking the same attribute points. Really the only difference is we're running the RTM takeaway broth for the stam recovery and the health recovery. Probably just saw the health recovery. It's at a nice 800 right now, which does get buffed. Do I have any potions? Yes, I do. Alright, so with a pot, that's how we're looking. We're at almost 900 health recovery, 1300 stam recovery. Pretty solid for a heavy setup, and with the CP passives that we have pretty good recovery, really good healing, and everything else is pretty much balanced. With Rally and Helping Hands, or Mountain's Blessing, whatever you want to call it, we're at 3,500 weapon damage. This is a fair jump from where we were previously with using Dawnbreaker and not Evil Hunter on the bar. So previously we were at, I think we were at 3,400 and some change. Now we're at 3,500 with just Evil Hunter and no Dawnbreaker. So that 10% buff from Mountain's Blessing, which was previously 5%, is actually, it's a noticeable difference. Your healing's really good, it's substantially better actually. Damage is there. DK still have a little problem with, you know, consistently applying pressure if you're not using a reverb setup, but I mean it's still pretty good. You can close some kills pretty easily. I guess for the bar setup now, we'll just get right into that. So like I said, we're running Evil Hunter. I've gotten really sick and tired of running a gap closer as of late. I just don't think they're that effective anymore. They don't do that much damage, and I found myself not actually using it as much as I thought I was. So I thought the smartest change I could do was, well, I first tried Flames of Oblivion, but I don't know how people use that ability. Even with the amount of stam that I have, it only hits and crits for like 2k. It's not that good. So with that, also it gives major savagery, but I also thought Evil Hunter gave the same thing, which it does. It gives passive weapon damage as well, and it's pretty handy if you need to get some Nightblades out of stealth, and in the case that you are running anything fighter skill that uses stamina on your bar, whether it be Trap Beast or Silver Leash or whatever you may want to use, the cost is going to be reduced. So I mean, I guess that's kind of helpful. Next to that, we're using Dizzying Swing. Right, this ability got a little bit nerfed in a way, and I don't really like it, but I'll explain how it's a little different in a moment. Executioner, Forward Momentum, Noxious Breath, and Take Flight. Back bar, we're using Resolving Vigor, Heroic Slash, Volatile Armor, Absorb Magicka, and Fragmented Shield. Another way you could run this, if you don't want to run Absorb Magicka for the extra healing and defense, and you want more damage, you can just run, what's it called, Venomous Claw here, Noxious Breath there, so you have the really strong Venomous Claw dot, and it's pretty nice. Okay, another method of running this setup is similar to how we had the Dreadknight build in the last build video, and that's utilizing Reverberating Bash. You would just have to re-slot some abilities here and there, like that. Maybe use Dawnbreaker, because it kind of suits more of a dot playstyle more so. And I think that's pretty much how I would run it, honestly. Maybe some changes in CP. But we'll get into that in a moment. But let me just reapply all the previous abilities that I had here. Okay, let's stick with that. Alright, so on to the topic of Dizzying Swing. So previously, Dizzying Swing had a pretty wide window of like how you could actually hit people, if you understand what I'm saying. Essentially, you could target someone that's right in front of you. You could kind of tilt your head like this or any other way you want, and you'll still hit them. The hitbox is a little bit funky, but it was really good in that way, if you knew how to apply the ability well. Now, if you see the little rectangle in the middle of the screen, if I go into first person, maybe it's a little easier to see. It narrows down if you have a target locked on. So with Dizzying Swing, if you look away or you take the rectangle off the target while it's on the cast time, it'll cancel the ability altogether. However, if you're in mid-cast, you get off the target and you go back on the Rectical. Like, as long as the Rectical locks on, the Dizzying Swing will land. Alright, so we're going to go here, there again. So the Rectical relocked and the ability hit. So, my quarrel with this change is that Dizzying Swing already has a kind of a long cast time for, I mean, 1 second doesn't seem that long, but 1 second in ESO is actually a fair bit amount of time to do something, whether it be roll dodging, blocking, or what have you. So D-Swing was already pretty easy to block. It was a very telegraphed ability because of its cast time. So now you have a couple more issues. Already people were roll dodging it pretty regularly. Now it's going to be even more difficult to land it, considering that, okay, now you have to have the Rectical dead on the target cannot leave. If the target leaves, it's canceled. There's a risk of getting blocked or roll dodging it altogether. So it's a little bit difficult, so that's why I kind of suggested the alternative bar setup. I've tested both out pretty thoroughly. Dizzying Swing still works, you just have to be pretty good with it. You have to have really good aim. But essentially that's the big change to DKs, I guess, in terms of a Dizzying Swing setup. On top of that, Leap got a pretty decent fix. It's kind of sad that you can't say it's a buff since the ability was broken for however long, but essentially they just fixed the tooltip on Take Flight. The problem was the pre-morph for this, Dragon Leap, the damage never actually scaled properly for Take Flight. So what that means is when you upgrade an ability from level 1 to 4, or from the morph variation, the damage will normally go up if it's indicated. It never occurred with the ability prior to this patch. So Take Flight's actually pretty decent now. It's noticeably like a better ultimate. But when in doubt, if you don't like Take Flight, Dawnbreaker's still a good option. As for sets, the only thing that's really changed is we're using the Asylum's Maul with a Absorb Stamina enchant. This is probably my favorite enchantment in the game, and I've been really waiting forever for them to fix this ability, or this enchantment, mind you. This pretty much allows you to have still a lot of damage that you would get from the disease damage glyphs or the poisons that you may be using, but this also gives you so much recovery too. It's noticeably easier to play a heavy armor setup with the extra 354 stam recovery, or the stam restoration. Other than that, it's pretty much the same throughout. We're still running Bloodspawn, Fury, Spriggan. Still haven't gotten these golded out yet, but I mean, it's all depends on the golden, if it wishes to deliver those rings. Again, infused, reinforced with max stam and a weapon damage enchantment on the one-handed Spriggan's weapon. Infused Bloodspawn helmet with stam. Infused Cuirass of Fury. Everything else is in pen with max stam, robust, weapon damage. It's all the same. Okay. CP has changed a little bit, not very much. We have 66 into Warlord, 66 Sprinter, 27 Mooncalf, 75 Tenacity, 20 Tumbling, 66 into Shadow Ward. If you want to run the Reverberating Bash setup, just take out the 16 points in Sprinter and put them into Befoul. I think that may get you to like 14, 15%. I'm not completely sure. Maybe a little bit less. 43 into Blessed, 8 Physical Weapon Expert, 72 Master at Arms, 11 Thaumaturge, 31 Precise Strikes. Only put Precise Strikes on a heavy build if you're using Evil Hunter or any sort of critical buff. Like if you're using Potions that give Major Savagery, if you're using Flames of Oblivion, don't bother putting a lot of points into this if you're under like 25% crit, because it's kind of a waste of points since you don't have a lot of critical damage or critical healing happening. So I would say put them into Piercing, maybe some more into Thaumaturge, maybe some to Shattered Blows, Physical Weapon Expert, anywhere you really feel like you need a little bit of damage aid or healing. It doesn't really matter. Moving on, 66 Ironclad, 53 Resistant, 31 Thick-Skinned, 56 Hardy, 49 Elemental Defender, and 15 Heavy Armor Focus. And as stated in the previous build video, you could put these 15 points, whether it be in Heavy Armor Focus, as I've had it now, Quick Recovery, or Expert Defender. I've done all three, and they're all three of which are very effective. It's entirely your choice. So again, I'm just going to display the stats fully buffed, okay, as such. With 3,500 weapon damage, 23,000 resistance, or spell resistance, 21,000 physical, 2,500 crit. With Blood Spawn, we're at about 30,000 and 31,000 with the roll dodging passive, 28,000, 25,000. Fairly tanky. And like I said again in the previous video, if you don't want to slot Spell Wall, you can slot Temporal Guard. That'll give you minor protection on that bar since it's slotted. Pretty good. Pretty nice stats. Very tanky. With Dawnbreaker, I guess the stats will be a little bit higher. It should be at like 3,600 and some change. Yeah, 30% crit. I mean, like I said, with the whole critical damage and critical healing buff, you're going to want to be at 30%. Minimum, at least. Don't bother running the Thief. Stick with the Warrior like we've always had, or the Magic Recovery Mundus Stone is pretty good too. But that's the build. It's a pretty tough patch for DK, honestly, despite the buffs. I mean, I was just getting into running Dizzying Swing again, and it got nerfed this patch, so still got to get used to it, but I don't really like the change. It's fairly difficult to use considering that ESO is a very dynamic combat style, or everyone's just moving around all the time, and even though they nerfed Swift and all the major expedition buffs, people are still zipping around like crazy, so it's fairly difficult from time to time, but it's still an effective bar setup. But if you're in doubt and you don't even like Dizzying Swing in the first place, just go to the other setup variation that I showed you and just change the CP accordingly. But anyway, that's pretty much it. I will be taking a little break from ESO. Red Dead Redemption is out, and for some of you playing Fallout 76, you might be hooked onto that, but like all games, they do get repetitive from time to time, and I've been playing this game pretty much straight throughout the 4 years almost that it's been out. So I need a little break. I'm not quitting, just less content is going to be coming through in the next however long. I will still be posting, just make sure you comment some suggestions in the comment section, whether it be for Elder Scrolls Online or Red Dead Redemption. I know my viewer base is pretty sure like 95 to 100% ESO, but if any of you guys want to see some Red Dead content, just let me know. Online, Red Dead Redemption has not been released yet. Should be in the next week or so. So if you're curious to see any gameplay on that, just let me know. I'd love to do some because it is a great game. But I'll see you guys pretty soon. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good holiday.